Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but tonight we are continuing our beginning of the year month, where we end up voting our themes in, and one of my choices got through, at least for themes, and it is January Blues, which has anything to do with blue in the title, blue in the movie, or blues in general. So, not exactly sure what Jim Varney had to do with blues,
All that
but
denim.
He always wears blue.
but definitely check out that the last week's episode. But this week we are checking out another film along the lines of the theme. So, Jake, why don't you tell us which movie we saw this week?
Okay, so this week we're going back to 2002 to an interesting little film directed by Dean DeBlois. I don't know. I had trouble with that.
DeBlois?
And Chris Sanders, based on an idea by Chris Sanders that is called Lilo and Stitch. It was notable at the time. If I recall correctly, I believe it was marketed as the first Disney animated film based on an original idea. I could be remembering that incorrectly, but I seem to remember that was a big part of the marketing. And like I said, it was based originally, Chris Sanders was trying to do a kid's book back in the 80s, and no one picked him up on it. So it's an idea he was sitting on for some time. But basic gist of it, per IMDb, a young and parentless girl adopts a dog, quote unquote, from the local pound, completely unaware that it's supposedly a dangerous scientific experiment that's taken refuge on Earth and is now hiding from its creator and those who it sees as a menace. I can't talk tonight. That's weird. Anyway, this we'll launch right into it, and I guess I will start looking as I'm seeing the screen here. I'll go ahead and start on my right. Ron, is this your first go around with this particular film?
Yes, it is. I had never seen it. When I thought I saw scenes for this, it was actually the TV show. I guess I saw scenes for. Because nothing I had saw scenes for happened in the movie, so I'm thinking maybe it was the TV show.
Or one of the straight-to-video sequels.
This definitely launched a hefty franchise, audio.
Yeah, I had
books,
no idea. I mean, I heard of
all kinds of stuff.
I heard of Lilo and Stitch, and I didn't even realize it was a TV show and in a movie. Never mind the other stuff. I looked it up afterwards because I was curious. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Wasn't quite as funny as I thought it would be, but it was enjoyable. There definitely was some funny scenes in it. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's Disney. Can't go wrong with Disney. Usually. Had to throw that in there just because of other reasons. But anyways, yeah, this was a good movie. First time watch, and probably check out some of the other ones as well. I've been told to check out the latest one, Leroy and Stitch. So, well, yeah, that's my first impression.
All right, sounds good. How about you, Dave? Is this your first go around with this particular one? What'd you think on it?
It in fact is. I remember trailer of it coming out, and I also remember like hearing about the Stitch movie. Now that I think about it, and I remember it came out with like one or two other sequels. And I did remember that it was an animated series, but I didn't realize that it had like 3 animated series. But it's cute. I mean, it's definitely not as funny as I thought. But the minute I started hearing Stitch's voice, for some reason, I had to look his voice up on on IMDb because I had to do a double take. He sounds exactly like Jar Jar Binks. So
You're crazy.
uh,
Yeah, I don't really see the
No,
similarities.
Jar Jar's voice is grating, and Stitch is cool.
well, I do think that Stitch is a cool character, but I like Jar Jar Binks,
Actually,
and to me, I heard Jar Jar Binks, so I found out no, it was not the voice of Jar Jar Binks, but there are some similarities, at least to me, in his voice to him. But I thought it was a cute story, and I thought the characters were somewhat interesting. The animation is a little different. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not quite used to Hawaiians being slightly. I don't know. What is the correct word for Asian?
The correct word what?
Word for Asian.
Native Hawaiians.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the idea.
narrow eyes, I guess, are what we're going for, at least in the animation.
Well, I mean, Hawaii is basically a Polynesian
it's
culture, and there's
They got annexed by the U.S.
yeah,
Pacific Islanders, I guess you could
Right.
say, which is, yeah.
and then I guess maybe what you're going for is there's some visual similarities.
Yeah,
you know,
I wasn't trying to be nasty or anything like that. Just it seemed like I don't know. It was a little different. So
I guess in fairness, Hawaii also has one of the largest Japanese populations outside of Japan, but
Yep.
I don't know. But
There's a very large Asian American population in Hawaii.
okay. But I enjoyed the film, and I enjoyed the sequel to it, and I guess eventually I'll check out the Stitch movie and Leroy and Stitch just to see if they were did they dumb them down like they normally do with sequels, or which means make it a little bit more child-like. So, other than that, I thought it was an interesting concept. So.
Good deal. Yeah. All right, and so was that your thing, Dave?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Brandon, was this your first time watching Lilo and Stitch? What are your thoughts?
Oh, no, nowhere near. I remember when this first came out. I think I saw it in theaters, but I can't pinpoint it. I either saw it in theaters or shortly after it came out to home video, because I know I saw it fairly early on because I love the advertising campaign. I don't know if many of you remember it, but during the time they did this out, they used to play basically other Disney animated movie trailers and have Stitch basically come in and invade it. Similar to how Deadpool was advertised, actually,
or the Minions
at this recent time. and it was great. Those commercials are hilarious. I loved watching them, and I really did like this back in the day when I watched it, and I still enjoyed it. I tried to show it to Jacob the first time he saw it, but when we were all locked in during a snowstorm at my place many moons ago. But it was, to me, it's a great film. I really enjoy it. I never thought it was particularly funny, but I didn't think it needed to be. It's a nice family-friendly Disney film. It's I'd say it's in there. I mean, I know that Stitch was one of a friend of ours that had passed away in 2020. I think he used to love that character. He used to do a great impression of him. That's mine.
Okay. Sorry about that. How about you, Tammy? Is this your first go with this one?
Yes, it is, and I wasn't sure how much I would get into because I'm not really into newer cartoon stuff. I like my old cartoons, for the most part. But yeah, it was fun. I didn't see the Jar Jar thing either, but I thought Stitch was cute though, and I liked his voice, especially when he did start talking somewhat. I thought it was cute. Yeah. It was it was cute. It was a lot of fun. Different type of animation. Yes, definitely. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right. Was that it for
That's
you?
it.
Okay. And how about you, Forrest?
So this is actually I had seen bits and pieces of it before, but this is my first time watching it in its entirety. And I remember seeing I remember the trail. I remember seeing when it first when it was first coming out. I remember the trailer for it, and seeing this funny little blue alien popping up in other Disney movies and just wrecking all the scenes. It was probably, I was amused, but I didn't get. But it took me about 20 years to finally get around to actually watching the whole thing. I think the animation. I do think I will first of all say that Stitch does not. I don't really see much of a similarity between Stitch and Jar Jar as much as I do Stitch and Slimer from the real Ghostbusters. As far as the voice and causing mischief. So this is from Disney's post-Renaissance era where they were kind of losing. Where they were still kind of on top of the animation world, but they weren't quite having the impact they were having in the 80s and 90s. They weren't quite the huge hits they were in the 80s and 90s. But this, I think, was probably one of the more successful of their waning days. I guess their waning days of 2D animation. This was one of the successes. It's not like laugh out loud funny, but I think the animation is really well done. Great voice work. The story and the character are all very heartfelt. And there's no I do like how there's no true villain. There's really no true villain. I don't think there's really any true villains in this story. There's no true villains in this story. Everybody seems like they're just trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Everybody's got their little misunderstandings, but it was pretty well done. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it a lot.
All right, good deal.
Yeah, it's kind of thing. Yeah, it's interesting though that up until then, I don't think I'm trying to think this was who was it? Dave mentioned that this is or was you that mentioned that this is the first Disney movie that's not adapted from another media. That's not an adaptation.
Pretty much. Like I said, I may be remembering that wrong. There may be one or two, but the vast majority of their stuff up to this point was based on very well-known fairy tales and
and books,
children's books, and
Yep. Actually, I don't think Joe. Actually, I don't think Dinosaur was. I don't think Dinosaur was adapted from anything, and that came out
when
2
did
years.
that come out? So when did that come out?
2 years earlier in 2000.
Dinosaur. Was that a fully animated one?
That was a feature length animated film, and that was Disney, not Pixar.
I don't even remember that one, to be honest.
That's one of the earliest PC animated, computer animated ones.
Well, okay, so maybe that was because that. Well, I was thinking traditional animation and
3D animation, yeah. Also, there was Atlantis: The Lost Empire. I don't think that was adapted from anything either.
I love that one. Matter of fact, I'd like to say that this is probably, even though this is considered one of Disney's dark ages.
Right.
Yeah.
I highly disagree. Some of their more imaginative films come out during this period.
Well,
I just saw
Treasure Planet, Atlantis.
I just saw Treasure Planet for the first time about a month ago, and I was very impressed with that.
Now, Atlantis, of course, was based on a legend. It was based on they had done stuff like Pocahontas was based on legends and history, supposedly. That's right. Big quotes.
I was just saying, Atlantis. I don't think it was based on any I mean, even though it's inspired by the Atlantean legend, but I don't think it's adapted from any particular story.
The Treasure Planet was basically just
Treasure Island.
Oh, Treasure Island.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even Brother Bear, which kind of ended that period, was a really good movie. It's very underrated.
I think that came out the year after this, right, or a couple of years later.
2003, and then you had Home on the Range in 2004. Then
no, that one's as bad as people said it was.
And then from that point forward, they just stuck to CGI apart from Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah,
this was basically essentially this and the Princess and the Frog are like their last successful animated, like traditional animated films.
I think. Well, actually, come to me, I don't know, Chris. I mean, Princess and the Frog. I think it did well critically, but I don't think it did well enough to.
I think it was considered. I think it was considered a success.
Just not enough for them to. It wasn't
enough for them to crow about.
I would say not enough to continue greenlighting 2D animated films.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough for them to go, oh wow, we're going in the wrong direction.
But it was successful enough for them to rebrand Splash Mountain.
Yeah. Well, Tiana's getting her own series on Disney Plus. So.
Right. All right, and we'll hit that one maybe one of these days. I will say this for it: that one did have a kick-ass soundtrack, but so did this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any more to throw out for us, or
not at this time? I don't think so. Yeah, no, not at this time.
Okay. One thing I will mention before I forget it, just in case I don't come back to it later, because a lot of people have talked about the animation of this one. And it is a different style. And part of it is that apparently they did watercolor backgrounds for this one, which is something they haven't done since like the 50s. And they did it for Dumbo. They did for a couple other movies back in the day, but they hadn't really done it in ages. And so it does give the film a different look in that way. The actual character style and everything is also a little different. But, again, hopefully we'll get more into that as we get into it. But as for me, Brandon kind of touched on it. We did have a night where I think there were 3 of us over. And so was this the same night that we watched Paranormal Activity?
Yeah, that was basically where we ended up playing a game. Was you, me, George, and Brittany, and we ended up staying the night because of a huge snowstorm, and that was the last snowstorm we had where it got like to above a foot. It was like 2 feet or something like
It
that.
doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
And this was when you were 2 housing units ago.
Yeah, I was in an apartment back in those days.
Long time ago. So basically, I think we put on Paranormal Activity like 2 a.m, which is the perfect time to watch that movie.
Yes.
And then we tried putting this on, and by then it was like 4 a.m. And
I said,
what's up?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would say that's quite a double feature right there.
I know. I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to go for it, because it amused me. But I ended up basically falling asleep 10 minutes into the movie. I'm guessing it was 10 minutes. And so my first time viewing it, I pretty much slept through it. But I saw bits and pieces. But this time around, I was awake, which was good. And so it's very rare that I'll suggest a movie I haven't seen properly. Like again, as you can tell, I could say I saw it, but not really. But I had an unwatched copy that needed watching. And the if you can probably tell from the illustration here, the way this fits into Dave's theme is that Stitch is blue. He is definitely a blue character. There were some other little touches here and there. I hadn't even realized that that Elvis was such a huge part of the soundtrack. And of course, that's a natural outgrowth of the whole discussion we had on Crossroads. So I guess there were a couple of ways this kind of fit in.
Plus, Elvis has been that Elvis biopic has been
Right.
did well at the Golden Globes last week. So
I still need to see that. And actually, an interesting blurb on IMDb, I'll throw out since you bring that up. On IMDb, there's a trivia thing that says that until that movie came out, apparently Lilo and Stitch held the record for the most Elvis songs in one movie.
Huh. Interesting.
Which is kind of an interesting thought that I had not realized. But you got Can't Help Falling in Love as a cover. You have an original version of Suspicious Minds, Stuck on You, Hound Dog, Heartbreak Hotel, You're the Devil in Disguise, Blue Hawaii. You got a cover of Burning Love. Yeah, so that's at least 8 songs. And that's just with IMDb list. There may have been 1 or 2, but that's pretty fun. That's a kind of a fun little thing. I had totally not. I wonder what the licensing for that would have been for Disney. But
I would say it's Disney. They got a license to print money.
Yeah, well, yeah, they probably could. At least at the time, they still did, no doubt. This was kind of in the
Dark Age.
Well, heading into it, because
heading into the second Dark Age.
Yeah, they lost their footing with Pocahontas. They kind of slid a bit with the next 3 or 4 movies, and then they got really experimental. And the critics liked this one a lot and loved Brother Bear, but the audience for Brother Bear kind of wasn't there, and I think that was kind of the really the beginning of the end for that. Yeah, and yes, from what I understand, Home on the Range was a failure in every way.
Yeah. I think Brother Bear for me was the only notable thing about it was like it was Rick, because by the time it had come out, Rick Moranis had largely disappeared from Hollywood, and it was like it was one of his few roles that he had done since the 90s.
Oh, Dustin might be joining us. Excellent. So, and I didn't really finish my impression of it is, I quite like the movie. I think it's very entertaining. It definitely went into, to me, the animation style is misleading because it almost looks like they made the movie for kids, but they really get into some interesting subject matter that makes me wonder about that. So it's kind of I mean, it's not uncommon for parents to get killed off in Disney films. In fact, that seems to be a regular trope. What's
But
that?
telling them in the modern context, though.
At least one parent dies off no matter what in Disney films.
Yeah, but I mean, they to have that both parents very recently. It is interesting that they've got. I'd totally forgotten about that aspect of the whole. Even though the social worker aspect is like a huge part of the plot.
Mr. Bubbles.
Mr. Cobra Bubbles, yes. Voiced by Ving Rhames. Excellent role for him. And so you've got basically the gist of it is you have this alien, experiment 626, who is created by this very shifty alien who is what was his Jumba, voiced by the late David Ogden Stiers, his last of many Disney roles, some of them very notable. He was a lot of fun as Jumba, I thought. This character, clearly a mad scientist, the closest thing we have to a villain in the movie, but he's not evil exactly.
Evilish.
More chaotic. It's
I would say nobody's truly evil in this movie,
right? And he has created this supposed monstrosity that when at first he denies it, but then when he is presented with the creature in front of him, he starts gushing about all the great stuff that he's programmed into this destroyer of civilizations. And really digging his own grave. It was like, Dave, it was like you in that courtroom sequence in that game we did. But it was basically.
Now that's funny.
What's that?
I said, now that's funny.
I can imagine that.
And so, yeah, the Grand Councilwoman, who's this very no-nonsense person, basically imprisons him, and then they decide on banishment for the creature, and they send this Captain Gantu, who's played by Kevin Michael Richardson, a veteran voice actor, does good job with his role, loses this creature over Earth. Basically, it proves to be more wily than its captors, as Jumba had predicted. And it starts falling toward the planet, and then they're like, oh, well, his molecular they see it tumbling toward the Pacific. Oh, his molecular density, he can't survive in water. And then he watches horror as he's going toward the only land for thousands of miles around, which turns out to be the Hawaiian island of Kauai. And there it's spotted by this young family, what's left of a family, Lilo, this troublemaking young girl, and her older sister, Nani. And they think it's a shooting star at first. And it's basically, as the story goes on, you come to realize a lot of things about their initial introduction, why they're fighting, why Lilo's so bratty and obnoxious towards people.
And there's a real situation going on in the background. Is a child protective services supposedly after Lilo.
Well, yeah, they don't think that her sister can watch over her appropriately.
Well, admittedly, it's very hard on that end, and she kind of comes across as feral. you look
Yeah.
at her.
Well, we're introduced to Lilo basically with her just playing in the ocean. Then she
Yeah.
runs toward this dance hall where she was supposed to be one of the dancers, and ends up getting in a fight with one of the other girls, and bites her. I mean, that's pretty feral. But it was her reason for being late was that she had to take a peanut butter sandwich to a fish.
Yes.
What's that?
No,
Yeah.
never mind.
I can't feed him tuna.
Yes. She goes into this whole story about how they didn't have peanut butter, just tuna, and she couldn't feed a tuna to a fish because that would be so wrong on. Which you can't fault her logic there. But she believes the fish controls the weather, which you come to find out later, that was what killed her parents, was rainy roads. So it makes sense that she, would feel that compulsion to please have good weather when possible. But she basically runs home and nails the door shut so that her sister is locked out, and that causes for a very awkward introduction to the CPS agent, and he pretty much comes away from that first meeting going, yeah, y'all are on thin ice here.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically she loses, after this.
Actually, you forgot something.
What's that?
She was walking and he was like driving out and
Kick the
he
bumper.
almost hit her and she started yelling at him,
Yeah.
hitting his vehicle and stuff. And
Yeah, first meeting was her basically cursing him out.
cursing him out and beating on his car. Which I guess she did some damage because she said she'll pay for it or something like that. So
maybe, yeah.
So she did kick the bumper, so
yeah.
Right. So yeah, basically, the next day they get the idea. Nani gets the idea of maybe a puppy will help calm Lilo down or something like that. So they go to the pound where they find this creature that is clearly not a puppy, but Lilo sees it as a puppy and wants it because I guess she senses a kindred spirit, which of course it's the alien who has taken shelter. Well,
he got run over by a big old like a 14-wheeler as he was just arriving on the planet trying to shoot everything with the myriad of guns. And then they just decided,
and he has all the dogs there scared to death.
They thought he was dead, but they apparently were fine putting a dead dog in with like a bunch of the live dogs. Maybe they were trying to just feed. It's like, this is a way of saving on food. Let's throw the roadkill in there.
See, they wouldn't have thought anything about feeding tuna to a fish. No. But I like the woman behind the counter. So they like. I believe she said something to the effect of, "You wouldn't want him; he was dead this morning."
Well, and like Tammy said, all the dogs were scared. They were in the corner, and when Lilo came back there, they were all on top, like above the cage. Like, we're not going anywhere near any of our cages.
Yeah. They knew that something was up. But
well, before Lilo gets to go back there, Stitch crawls out, nobody sees him. He sees the guy's trying to get him, so he goes back and in by the dogs, and then he makes himself look more presentable before she even comes back there.
Yeah, he hides his antennae in one pair of arms, and he's got some spines on his back. He hides those. it still doesn't look anything like a dog, but I guess it looks more like an Earth creature.
Kind of looks like some weird koala dog hybrid.
Yeah, I think Nani just says he
Kind
looks
of reminds me of a French bulldog.
Yeah.
right. It's yeah. But again, obviously Lilo is drawn to this clearly wild individual. And meanwhile, we have back on whatever planet they came from, Jumba is approached by the councilwoman with an assignment to go get this creature, 626, to go capture him. And there is this weird little kind of weak very weak alien who is Pleakley, who is like, you can't just go in guns blazing. This is a protected planet. It's, they make a big deal about how the mosquito is supposedly an endangered species, and you can't harm humans because they are the food source for this endangered species. And well, part of me bristles at what seems to be a joke at the expense of people like me. On the other hand, I am amused at the idea that the mosquito is held in such high regard by these aliens.
Well, in all fairness, we have in certain areas we have tried to hunt the mosquito to extinction.
Yes, this is true.
I thought that was amusing too when they were going through that whole big thing about mosquitoes, and I was just like, what?
I do like it later when he actually does get the mosquitoes and it's like, oh, look, one of them's landing on. They're tickling me with their nose. Oh my God.
Yes. He found out the hard way that mosquitoes are not warm and fuzzy in creatures. But at any rate, so he, being the ardent defender of Earth's natural systems that he is sent along to keep the other guy in check. Basically, although you kind of get the impression the councilwoman just wants to send him away just for fun. She would have figured out a way to do it regardless. But the two of them are sent to Earth to capture 626. And so essentially that sets up the plot. There's not, a lot of stuff happens, but I'm not sure there's much more that needs to really be said on the plot itself. Basically, you've got Nani is trying desperately to figure out a way to keep the family together and kind of failing at every turn. These aliens are coming after 626 and not being much more successful. And meanwhile, Lilo and this dog that she has named Stitch are becoming pretty fast friends after a fashion. I mean, it does take a lot before Stitch starts really abandoning his programming. At one point, he even builds a facsimile of San Francisco in her room just so he can go all kaiju on it, which is pretty fun.
He loved watching the kaiju movie on
hilarious.
TV.
That was great.
But he couldn't, because they said that the guy said the first thing he's going to do is seek a large city.
Right.
So he's trying to go places, but every time he goes places, she's like, yeah, we're not all that populated an island. And he's like, ah.
Yeah, it's like they're touring the whole island. And then I think at one point she says, yeah, it's a good thing there's no big cities or whatever. She like saying what a peaceful island it was. And you kind of see a little piece of him die inside. It's like, because he couldn't do it. But yeah, I'll admit, even if they'd landed on the big island, they would have had a little trouble with the big city thing. I guess Honolulu probably would have been a good target, but Ankali, not so much.
I would say Honolulu is not exactly San Francisco or Manhattan.
He's got high-rise hotels he could tear down.
Yeah. But you storm a beach and then you're kind of done. But meanwhile, she introduces him to Elvis, and the child protective guy at one point, child protective services guy at one point, makes a comment of that Stitch is clearly a handful, and he needs to become a model citizen. So Lilo tells him that Elvis was a model citizen and trains
I'm not
him.
so sure about that.
Yeah. I thought that was an amusing description too.
Right.
And let's not forget one of the more important aspects of this. There's two, actually. One is that there is I can't think of the Hawaiian phrase that they use, but that no one gets left behind.
Ohana.
And then there's also the Ugly Duckling book, which is a huge thing for him, because you can tell at that time Stitch also is kind of looking for belonging, because he really has no family, because, well, he is this unique creation. Yeah.
He I don't know if he is fully aware of his background at first. I think he definitely becomes aware by the end, but he definitely feels that something's missing. And watching Lilo and Nani and how they interact, and watching, he does pick up on the idea that there are other things besides death and destruction. And he kind of wants to know about those other things. And yes, the term ohana, which I guess, or according to the movie, is basically the Hawaiian word for family. I can't claim to be expert on Hawaiian, but that seems accurate from what I know. It is a huge theme. It comes back, and the idea no one gets left behind.
I'm sorry, I just checked. Ohana does mean family in Hawaiian.
Oh, there you go.
Good deal. So yeah, that's a pretty fun aspect of this. Supposedly the filmmakers, I don't know if they learned their lesson from Pocahontas, if they took any lessons, or if they just really wanted to do it right because no animated film had been set in Hawaii before. But apparently they really did their homework. And from what I've read, the depiction of Cowie in the film is fairly accurate, which, again, cannot be said for all of Disney's productions.
Yeah. Actually, I wonder what Native Hawaiian actually think about this film. I know that there's a lot of prevalence of dislike for a lot of, mainlanders and us kind of messing up the land there. But I was curious about how that would, because Disney tends to basically screw with any type of ethnic minority in their thing, and any culture or anything. They don't really seem to care.
So. I remember when I was a kid, my mom would not take me and my sister to see Pocahontas because she took an issue with them taking this story about a young woman who had a short, miserable life and turning it into a fairy tale.
Yes, and again, as I consider myself a native Virginian, even though I wasn't born in the state. I have lived anywhere from about 40 minutes to about 3 hours away from where she was born and raised for most of my life. And I know this area. And again, the filmmakers who made Pocahontas clearly had not set foot in Virginia.
Or cracked open a history book, period.
They changed so friggin' much. It's not even funny. They got a few things right, but most of what they got right was probably by accident. So, I mean, the best thing that can be said about Pocahontas is that Colors of the Wind is the best song Disney has ever created, and a couple of the other songs were pretty badass.
And the sequel
And
was
it's a pretty movie.
The sequel was oddly much more accurate historically.
I've never
which
did
is
see the
weird.
sequel. I never did, but
Oh
it's.
yeah.
I'm like, just watch Terrence Malick's The New World if you want to see that story. But anyway, but one thing I will say about this, and I was wondering about that too, and it's interesting that this month we've had a theme, like all of the movies have had a whiff of that phrase, cultural appropriation.
Well, okay, so this movie and Ernest Goes to Camp, definitely.
Yeah.
I wasn't here for Crossroads, so I'm just kind of
Crossroads definitely as well.
Definitely Crossroads.
What were the offense? And then I guess with Blues Brothers, I mean the Blues Brothers, they're white guys.
Yeah.
Right. But one thing I will say about this one, Nani is voiced by Tia Carrere, who is born and raised in Honolulu. And I did not know this before. I did know she is one of the finest looking women on the planet.
If she was, then she'd be Abraham Lincoln.
I did not realize that. Okay, apparently she is Chinese, Spanish, Filipino, and Hawaiian.
Yep.
So she does have Hawaiian heritage, as well as residency.
I think of
what's that?
I think of all the voice actors in this movie, she's the only one who is of Hawaiian heritage.
No, I was about to say she is not the only one. Her boyfriend David is played by Jason Scott Lee, who is Hawaiian and Chinese.
Okay.
So, and he was born mainland stateside, but he grew up in Hawaii. So,
right. But I know that Lilo was voiced by a white girl.
Yeah. Most of the voices, mostly it's a bunch of white folks. Well, if Ving Rhames and Kev Michael Richardson at least had some diversity, but
right. I mean, actually, I would say Aladdin, but oh god, Aladdin. I mean,
oh geez, Aladdin is,
or even the Lion King.
It's a lot less problematic for me when it came out. I loved Aladdin as a kid, but it's hard now to. In some ways,
I still love it, but yeah, looking back there, I'm like,
It still has a great deal to offer. But anyway, back to this one. Knowing now that that at least they had some Hawaiian actors involved, at least makes it a little less iffy,
problematic.
I still think I'm a little more comfortable with Moana with how hard they went to try to. Include with that one, but in the end, though, this one, I think they still did thematically. It's a great thematic film, and Stitch is almost an anti-hero, which is interesting, having an anti-hero at the center of an animated Disney film. So again, at the time, it was quite unusual in that respect. And the fact that Lilo comes off as pretty bratty at first, too, it's kind of an interesting dynamic that you have with your leads here. But eventually, it all kind of, the aliens keep coming and trying to do something and failing, and Stitch is mostly reacting to them, but manages, just by his general destructive tendencies, to cause more trouble than he needs to for the sisters. And it really gets to a point where it's really looking dire in terms of Donnie's ability to keep Lilo. It's really looking bad. Like, they want to stick together. At one point, though, Lilo says, like, I really, really prefer you as a sister than a mother, but, obviously she needs someone to take that role and look out for her. But the implication is that Nani had been sort of devil may care. She's clearly a surfer, and that's like her first love. Apparently her and David are like fellow surfers, and they kind of like, they call each other cousin, but there's like, he at least wants a little more. And actually one of the great set pieces of the film, and it's one of the parts where Stitch really starts to turn around, is the part where they feature the song Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride, which has long been a favorite song of mine. Even though I hadn't seen the film, I was familiar with the song, and I love the song. But there's this great part where basically they all go out surfing, and Lilo, of course, Stitch at first is terrified of the water and doesn't want anything to do with it. But as it goes on, he sees them having all this fun together. And he realizes that they have, the three of them, including David, they have this bond that he's like, what is this? This is nice, And he starts getting jealous that he's not part of it, or not really a part of it. And so I think that scene, and y'all tell me if you agree, but I feel like that scene was like a big turnaround in the film for his point of view.
I think so too. I think that was where he was feeling like, he didn't belong anywhere, and he sees that they belong, and he wants to belong. Plus, Lilo had showed him that book, and he had seen the ugly duckling thing, so he was already kind of seeing things,
Yeah, he pretty much carried that ugly duckling book around, didn't he?
Right. Yeah, even when he, if you will, left home, he took the book with him. Forrest, you look like you're about to say something.
Okay. No, go ahead. Go on.
Of course, keep in mind also one of the main reasons why Stitch was staying with the family in the first place was he was using them essentially as human shields to keep
shot.
Yeah, because though he's almost indestructible, they apparently did have a weapon strong enough to hurt him. So he was like, I think I will hide behind these people.
Right. And it also might have been his destructive tendencies, kind of a curiosity about what would happen if they got hit. I don't know. But yeah, so essentially, and I guess if anyone wants to delve into any scenes that we've already skipped by, well, there's the scene where we see that David does like these dances with fire where he's really not as successful as he needed to be with that. And then Banani was working as a waitress at the same establishment, and she ends up getting fired. I can't remember what Stitch did, but he did something that did not go well.
He attacked those aliens that were inside the forests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They were. Apparently, their disguises worked a lot better on the people than it would have worked on me.
I'm surprised that Nani wasn't suspicious that one of our customers has like has
I thought about that.
One giant eye.
Or the other has.
I wondered that too.
Well, I noticed how they each liked to wear the wigs just a little bit longer. It's like, hey, give me that wig. No, it's not your turn yet, or some shit like that.
Right.
I did like it was interesting with the scenes where Stitch is trying to reform, but they always end up sabotaging every single one of Nani's attempts to find work because of that, which makes it very hard for her to keep her. And of course, all that culminates in that final fight when the two aliens were fired, so to speak. So he's like, okay, now gloves are off. I can now I don't have to worry about not harming the people. Right. And they have that big fight that destroys their house. Of course, one of the things that George used to say all the time was he used to like that scene where Stitch hit the guy with the Volkswagen. He's like, punch buggy. And hits him in the...
No punch back.
And the film does have a few pretty fun. It does have some pretty fun bits of dialogue. And I think this was in that scene that I put a random quote out there, and I think Ron was like, "Oh yeah, Ron, you're like, what the hell?"
Yeah, you were talking about the dog has the chainsaw.
Lilo's like, "Oh good, the dog found the chainsaw."
Yeah. And that's why I was like, "What the hell are you watching?"
I'm like, "That's a phrase you'll rarely hear." Anyway, so yeah, as I think Brandon, I think was the one that just mentioned that basically our two bumbling bounty hunters, get fired. They get sacked and decide that, oh wow, we can keep doing what we're doing, but without any consequences. But meanwhile, Gantu is given another chance to go capture him. 626, and he pretty easily succeeds in capturing him, but he does catch Lilo in the process, and Stitch is easily able to escape, but not quick enough to get Lilo out as well. So basically this one guy goes kind of flying off with the wrong captive. And meanwhile, the others are. I honestly can't remember exactly.
They were trying to find her.
I believe the Child Protective Service dude is in the process of like taking Lilo away when she runs off, and that's when she's captured by the captain, and Lilo and Stitch are in that thing, and then he escapes, and Nina sees that Lilo is captured.
Right.
She teams up with the two bounty hunters.
Right.
Because evidently they want to reform. Just a moment. And help. And so they in fact do, and ultimately Lilo gets helped out by Stitch, and I guess the alien supreme commander comes down, and she's about to she's cuffed Stitch with the cuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And she's about to take him away, but he's like, my name is Stitch. It's not experiment 626.
Right.
Can I say goodbye? Sure.
Which was one of the things also that showed he kind of reformed, because when they asked him to explain himself the first time, he said something, but I don't know what it was, but it was definitely very offensive to everybody.
Right. But yeah, he as you said, the Supreme Commander does come down, and she says very pointedly that we follow rules. We need to abide by rules. And then I believe it's Nani gets this great idea, and then she gets out the receipt.
Actually,
Luckily
it's
have
not
it on her.
it's in fact the Child Protective Service, dude.
Oh, does
He
he get it?
says, "Hey, didn't you get him at the pollen?"
Yes.
And he's and then that's when Lilo was like, "Hey, 3 days ago I signed this, and I now own him." So,
So if you take away, you're stealing.
Yeah. And then, and then she's like, well, he is in exile, and we will have him serve out his exile here. And, keep an eye on him from time to time. We also find out the CPS guy is former CIA, apparently. And that he actually knew this Supreme Commander at least a little bit from back in the day.
Well, yeah, in fact, he was
familiar. Roswell, 1967.
He was
here
the
back
agent
then.
in charge of protecting the mosquitoes as a population.
Yes. Yes. He's the one that gave them that notion that the mosquitoes were
endangered.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Cobra Bubbles. I love that name. That is
yes. Well, he introduces himself as I believe as Mr. Bubbles, and then Lilo looks at his your fingers say Cobra. It's like, yeah, it's pretty. It's a great, weird name, but a great.
I like when the alien, just go back a little bit when the mosquito, like you said, lands on him, and he goes, "Oh," and then another one, "Oh, look at, oh, they really like me," and I was like, "Whoosh!"
I do really like him. Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. So, at any rate, so in the end, pretty much happy ending. We had they basically kind of
alien said to the bounty hunters or said to one of her people, make sure they don't get on our spaceship.
Right. Well, they get kind of sort of press ganged into helping rebuild the house that they kind of helped blow up.
I will say this: the aliens do take responsibility for destroying the house and so on.
Yeah.
And do repair it good as new.
Right.
So that was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. They did it. They did a good job.
Better. I think they added a few things.
Right. So the which again, you see, none of them are like truly evil. Like even the mad scientist, who is proud of creating this weapon of mass destruction, has a weird sense of, weird sense of responsibility, I guess you could say. And he definitely doesn't seem to be out to just destroy and mangle and all that's it's more like a hobby.
Everyone's gotta have a hobby.
Yes, everyone needs a hobby, exactly. But anyway, did we have any further thoughts on the actual plot, the actual story? Were there any scenes or anything that we want to make sure to hit?
I like when Lilo finally is upset enough with Stitch and he leaves and he's out by I think it's supposed to be like a tree house, and he's reading the book, and that's when you see he's he's really trying because he's reading the book, and then he realizes lost, so he stands there and he goes lost, and he's catching some of the words, and that's when you first start hearing him speak, and actually realizing that he feels lost. He's feeling,
Right.
I think that's a definite like turning point too.
And definitely his learning of the English language is, language generally, Earth languages generally, is an interesting. I think they do it in a pretty decent manner where, he seems to pick up a word here and there, but they kind of don't really know if he's just parroting it or not. But eventually, the audience becomes aware, like that scene you're talking about. But eventually, the characters also kind of become aware. And one of the parts I think we didn't exactly mention is when they're going to try to rescue Lilo. I believe it was that part, like when they were getting ready to try to rescue her. And Nani is feeling very down and very, she doesn't really know what to do. And Lilo tells her that thing that Ohana and means no one left behind, and that kind of lights a fire on her to get something going. And I see Dustin's joined us. So
yeah,
Dustin,
sorry guys.
that's all right. You made it. So we're kind of wrapping up the plot, but did you, if you want to take a couple minutes, is this your first time seeing this movie? And what's your general thoughts?
I've seen this one plenty of times, and I think it might be my favorite post-2000 Disney film. So I really liked this movie. This was one of the very few movies. This movie came out kind of when I was transitioning from like childhood to like being a teen, and so a lot of films like this are things that I would be like, I don't need to see that, or and it would be weird if I went to see that to watch this, or. But this was one thing that it had a strong enough reputation, and I read the review for it in my Roger Ebert 2003 movie review book, which I guess came out, well, whatever. I think it was published later, but the review was from when it was new. The timing's a little fuzzy. Anyway, the point is, this was one movie where I was like, I want to try to see this, and I wouldn't feel embarrassed about it. So I really liked it the first time I saw it. I don't even know by what means I originally saw it. Might have even been a VHS rental at that point. I'm a lot more familiar with this had like an animated series, and I used to watch the animated series all the time as like a, it's like, oh, this is a kid's show, but I'm not too cool for it yet kind of thing. If anybody remembers having things they felt that way about.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I thought it was great. Like it has kind of a mean sense of humor sometimes, which I really enjoyed. But it wasn't like a cruel kind of mean. It's hard to describe, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Where it's like, look, he built the city, and then he just smashes it down. It's like, haha, like that kind of thing. So I really like this movie, and I'm happy we got to cover it. I just wish I hadn't. So a little behind the scenes, I've been trying some new medication, and occasionally it just makes me fall asleep for many hours at a time. So sorry about that. That's where I was. But I'm happy to be on here and just kind of contributing what I remember about this franchise. I saw there's a rumor about a live action one coming out at some point, and it's like, okay, how are you going to do that?
Huh. That's something.
CGI Stitch.
I guess most of the aliens would need to be CG. They'd probably do mocap, I would think, in a lot of them.
Yeah, it was really wild. Like the show was about. Did anybody talk about the show?
Briefly.
Yeah, well, the premise of the show was that Stitch's experiment it's 626, right?
Right.
I always seem to. So I have my own number based off of the letters in my name, and that number is actually 636. So I sometimes get stuff that's close to that number mixed up with that number. But anyway, the show was about how the other 625 experiments are now loose, like on Hawaii, and they have to go round them up. And it was a pretty fun time. So you got to see like a new weird alien every episode, and there are quite a few creature designs they could draw from if they were to do a live action one, and maybe sort of pay some sort of acknowledgement to that.
Right, we could do that.
Even just like an Easter egg or something, like have them in tubes in the background on Jumbo's ship, something like that.
Well,
back to the plot.
Good deal. Well, yeah, they seem to be doing live actions for most of the animated ones, so I guess they'll get there eventually. But actually, Dustin, you mentioned something interesting that we didn't really touch on yet. But the designs of most of the aliens are at least vaguely familiar. And a lot of them are specifically modeled on other Disney characters. In fact, I know at least 3 of them were specifically based on Winnie the Pooh characters. So it's kind of interesting. I kind of noticed it when I was watching. I was like, that one looks just like Tigger.
Yeah, I cannot remember if he's in the Lilo and Stitch movie, but Stitch ends up with like a rival character. I think he's 625, who becomes kind of I keep trying to call him like Gombo, but I know that is wrong.
Was that Leroy?
Yeah, Leroy. I think that was it. It's been many years since I've seen this. But Stitch's like rival creature looks a lot like Stitch, but also like I could have swore he was a Winnie the Pooh character all along, and suddenly that clicks.
Could be.
He looks a lot like kind of like a mashup between like Pooh and Eeyore. It's hard to describe.
Okay.
But he has Stitch's body shape.
Huh. Sounds fun.
I mean,
it's like I know. What's that?
No, go ahead.
Nah, I don't know where I was going.
I was just gonna say, to bring it to production design. I know we talked about the animation style, utilizing watercolor backgrounds for the first time in ages for Disney, and I really do think that the look, it really does make the look quite good. I really like the animation style here. It's very fluid. Now, I will say that the characters look a little bit like Muppets, especially Lilo. I swear it. It's because she's got the very wide mouth that opens up all the way.
Bro, I can see that.
So I always love the style.
It's very like vividly colorful. I appreciated that.
That's a thought. They could do the live action one where the aliens are Muppets. That could actually work.
Ooh, all Muppet Lilo. Oh, the Muppet Lilo and Stitch.
I noticed that they made the legs of some of the human characters very thick in this. You know, the animation.
Yeah.
The name I was thinking of was Gantu. I am so embarrassed I forgot that idiot's name.
Okay.
It's very good character design. I like that the characters aren't like stick figures. A lot of proportions and sizes are fairly realistic. It's just, except for the children. The children look like Muppets, but that's okay. I don't mind it.
I mean, Gantu is basically a 2-legged whale. I think we can let a few things slide in terms of accuracy. But they do look like they all fit in this universe.
Oh yeah, and that reminds me, Mo wanted it known that he does approve of Nani. But I think Dane concurred, if I was not mistaken. Too bad they didn't join us to share those opinions themselves, but you know, whatever. But Anyway, yeah. So I did mention earlier, yeah, the relative uniqueness of the animation style here. It was sort of a throwback style, which was kind of cool, and it was very different. Um, as far as the and the looks of the characters are not the only Easter eggs. Like, they've got, there's the famed hidden Mickeys all throughout the movie, that sort of thing. But they did
Dumbo.
What's that?
I said I caught a hidden Dumbo.
Oh yeah. Well, and this one again, Dumbo was one of the others that did have a watercolor background. And I have no doubt that some of the elements were incorporated into this. Fortunately, they didn't incorporate certain elements of Dumbo that didn't age so well. But of course, that can be said of a few Disney films. But at any rate, trying to think if there's anything else on production that's really notable. We did briefly touch on the music. This one does have one definite original song, Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride, and one that I believe was a reworking of a couple of older Hawaiian tunes. That was, let's see, what was that one called? The Hemele no Lilo. And then, of course, you got Aloha Hawaii at one point sung by Nani, and the old tune credited to the last queen of Hawaii, Lilo Kalani. And very famous song from there. And then, as we mentioned, a crapload of Elvis songs. I really did like the part where Lilo got out her little machine,
Her record
and
player.
had Stitch put his finger on it,
Yeah.
and he was broadcasting. Of course, "Suspicious Minds" is like my favorite Elvis song anyway, but just the way they were doing that amused me.
I like the soundtrack just because there was plenty of Elvis, and it's like,
Right.
once the second Elvis song came on, I was looking at David like, what, a cartoon that's playing Elvis songs? Really?
Right. Now, of course, it was all building to the point where Lilo called him a model citizen. That was.
Oh, and in all fairness, Elvis is big. Even still, Elvis is big in Hawaii. So
Yeah. And as we said, actually, wait, Dave, here you go. This is another Blue connection. Blue Hawaii was one of the ones included. But I can't claim that I planned that, but it's fun. And
too true.
And you had some decent, again, a group calling themselves A-Teens did the "Can't Help Falling in Love" cover, and then we had the cover at the end of "Burning Love" that I thought it didn't sound like Elvis, but somehow I didn't pick up on it being Winona until halfway through, and I was like, oh yeah, I hear it now. I don't know how I missed that. And again, someone who has dabbled in blues herself, so I have the theme coming back here and there throughout, But overall, like I said, I personally love Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride. It's probably one of my 10 favorite Disney themes. So I really do. And that scene, again, was such a great scene in the film. It was very well used in the film, I think. And so that was a definite musical highlight. And also notable, the music was by Alan Silvestri. This is his only Disney score. But he has done, of course, some phenomenal work over the years for pretty much everything Robert Zemeckis has ever done, but also a lot of other stuff over the years. And if I recall correctly, I believe he reteamed with this director, the director Chris Sanders. I need to double check on this, but I do believe they reteamed for The Croods. So that's kind of good to see that they sparked a relationship there too. I could be making that up out of nowhere though, because I thought I know Chris Sanders directed The Croods, but no, I was right. Okay, I wasn't making that up. So, anyway, and of course, Sanders only has a few directorial credits to his name, with The Croods and How to Train Your Dragon being among them. So, you could do worse than basically 3 franchise starters.
Oh, yeah. The Croods being the weakest, but The Croods was also beautiful art design wise.
And it's still a solid film. That and the sequel, they're both solid films. But yeah, like you said,
Dragon, though.
What's that?
How to Train Your Dragon, however, my goodness, that was a heck of one.
That's an excellent film. But actually,
I like the dragon.
Those were both DreamWorks productions. I can't remember. I think it was John Lasseter who apparently was not a fan of Sanders and pretty much gave him the axe after he took over Disney animation. So that's how Sanders ended up at DreamWorks. At any rate, I wonder what he must have done to piss Lasseter off. I don't know. But at any rate, and we talked about some of the people behind the camera. We mentioned Tia Carrere, of course, and Ving Rhames, Jason Scott Lee. Sanders himself voices Stitch, so that was kind of he was doing both. And Davy Chase, of course, not only voices Lilo, but the film that beat this one for the animated feature Oscar was Spirited Away, where Chase is the American voice of the main character, Chihiro. So that was kind of she had a strong Disney year that year, I guess.
Plus, she was also in The Ring that same year too.
Oh yeah. Slightly different film.
Samara.
Slightly different.
What?
Slightly different, but she had a banner year that year.
Were you saying something, Dustin?
What? Who was Samara again? Because I just saw The Ring for the first time.
The voice of Lilo.
I thought that name looked so familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was the voice of Lilo, and she was also the girl in The Ring.
Yeah, I saw The Ring in The Ring too. Just yesterday.
Hey, well, I will say that
Together.
Lilo could have been. Lilo was just a slightly younger version. She grows up to be Samara.
I don't think John really.
Yeah.
I like him kind of a lot because I had a lot of familiarity. It's like, why do I feel like I know this person?
I believe it was the American version of The Ring, though.
Yeah, it was the Americanized Ring, which I know we saw Ringu together, and then I saw The Ring by myself a day or two ago, and everybody was right. Ringu is easily like a lot better by double. It's sad how not close it is.
Especially if you include the sequel in that aspect.
It was so incredible too, because The Ring 2 was done by the director of Ringu and Ringu 2, and everybody was there to make it like amazing, but it was just dull. Like it was shocking, really. Digression aside, the music is spectacular. I don't remember a lot of the orchestral score, but the Hawaiian roller coaster ride is pretty hard to forget. And I watched so much Disney Channel. They used to, back in those days, I don't know if they do it anymore. They used to do like extra features for movies that they were trying to promote, like as commercials. So there's been quite a few times where I'd be watching something and it would go into a making of Hawaiian roller coaster ride, and it would show here's how we wrote it. It would show like the kids singing in the choir. It was pretty neat.
Good deal.
Yeah, I thought the Ring American versions was way better than Ringo.
I know. I like stories about hearing.
Ringo was dragged on a little bit too much, and it wasn't scary in the least. I mean, not the American version was all that scary, but it's scarier.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
To each their own on that one. But that is a one of these days we'll cover the American version of Ring. We'll hit that.
Timmy. But anyway, back to this one. Is there anything else on the production or various aspects of the film, or should we go on into favorites?
Nothing really. I mean, the production was pretty good for its time. I mean, for what we got and the the story surrounding it. I thought the colors went good. I really did like the colorization of Stitch. I mean, he is a unique character, and I'm glad that I finally saw it.
Very good. All right. So, let's go ahead then and head on into favorites. Oh yeah, I did want to see. Okay, I did want to see this. The Lilo is apparently means a generous one, which kind of seems like a misnomer until later in the film, but later on you kind of see that a little more. I don't remember exactly what Nani meant, but it's a similarly interesting meaning to it. And supposedly their two names kind of start and end the name of the queen. Geez, I'm drawing a blank. It should not be. It's unfortunate, but
wasn't it Lilulonani? Something
along those lines.
I was reading the wiki for a little bit earlier. That's why I got quiet, like out of nowhere, because it's like, oh yeah. And I went and looked at a bunch of pages. So I thought the wiki said that Lilo meant like lost one or something.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. Yeah, okay, that was something. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the one dude. They had that one running gag of this really, 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 really sunburned dude with the ice cream who never gets to enjoy it.
I think they keep that running gag going in the series too. I remember him showing up a lot and getting his ice cream trashed each time.
Oh, that would probably be me in Hawaii if I was there.
Yeah, in the second film, he's like on a beach, nothing is surrounding him, and I think Stitch like runs into his ice cream cone.
Okay, yeah, Nani means beautiful in Hawaiian. It was right there. How did I miss that? But anyway, whatever. Lilo Kalani. There we go. How did I? Granted, it's kind of a long name, but still, whatever. Do we have any? One who wants to lead us off on favorites, and I guess we'll do favorite character scene, if there is a particular line of dialogue or a musical moment or whatever you want to mention. Then feel free.
I think I'll just go. My favorite is the whole Stitch's trial scene. Well, I guess it's Jumbo's trial too, as part of the same thing. But
Right.
where they're like, well, how do you defend yourself? And Stitch just says something that we're supposed to believe is extremely vile. Like people start like gasping.
Yeah.
You can see somebody throwing up in the background too, and it's like, wow, really? And then just kind of shortly after Stitch's escape, he's just like looking for weapons and stuff before he decides to pretend to be a dog. And it's like, oh, this thing's actually pretty dangerous. Somebody gonna do something? But it works out. So
Yeah, that trial is a bit like if you took like the aliens from the Men in Black like era of things and like put them in charge.
Yeah, well, the Men in Cobra Bubbles is basically a Man in Black. I mean, they pretty much say that at the end of the movie.
I mean, this would fit very well in the Men in Black universe.
It would, and I don't know how that didn't really jump to my mind ahead of time, but I do wonder if maybe that was a major influence on this, and if they intentionally were trying to evoke Men in Black with some of this.
And I mean, actually, I'll go ahead with my favorite. I would say Stitch is easily my favorite character. If we included the advertising, I would say that those Disney commercials that Stitch trashed would be my favorite scenes. But but Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride is definitely up there. The beautiful song, visuals, and just great storytelling moments. So great combination.
Sounds good. How about you, Tammy?
Well, Stitch is my favorite character. I like him. Of course, like I said before, I love the soundtrack because I'm an Elvis. I like Elvis a lot. But scenes, I like that scene when he leaves and he goes out to the treehouse and he's looking at the book. And he first is saying things and he's going lost, and his little voice and everything, and he's realizing he wants to belong somewhere and that he actually has feelings. It's just, if you didn't think there was anything good in him before that, or you weren't sure if you liked him, that scene right there just makes you be like, "Aww." So
right. Look at the cute little rampaging kaiju. Right. How about you, Forrest?
So, David, can we have one?
I'm sure if we went to Australia and got a koala, it would be just the same.
I know. I would say I would. Okay, so yeah, I would have to agree. Well, I would agree on Stitch. I mean, my parents have a Boston Terrier pug mix that reminds me of him. Well, and then favorite scene. I would have to agree. Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride was really well done. Was really good. Both the music, the animation, and just in terms of character developing the characters in the story.
All right, sounds good. How about you, Crawl?
Well, Stitch is my favorite character. As far as scenes, his escape, the way they had it pretty well marked to stop him from escaping, and he figured out a way completely around it by taking out his guard first and using the machines against him by using his spit, which is just great. All these huge machines, probably very expensive machines to shoot him, and he spits and gets out of it, and it's very, very ingenious. And then him
They locked on his genetic signature. Yeah.
Yeah, and he shuts off the electricity in the entire ship, and then escapes. So it's like he didn't just escape, but he made sure they weren't going to be doing anything to stop him afterwards. He then had a firefight with the other ships, but he handled himself pretty damn well in that as well. So that scene just I think it's great. It just shows his ingenuity. And intelligence, and I love that. As far as songs go, I think this was his mind's great Elvis song, and the way they had him play it, was a great way, So that's my thoughts.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong. I know "Suspicious Minds" was one of Elvis's later hits. That would have been around his Hawaiian time, wouldn't it?
Not really sure. My mother was a big Elvis fan.
I don't remember exactly what period he really spent a lot of time out there or whatever. I just, again, I remember the chronology of the song. And Dave, I don't think we've asked you yet.
Nope. Stitch is my favorite character, but I do like that moment when the tourist bounty hunter was like, "Oh, they're liking me," and then more mosquitoes like swarm around him and suck up and dry. For some reason, I just laugh out loud at that moment. But I do have to say Tammy really got it spot on when he goes out in the middle of that forest and just says "lost." You can't help but feel something for him, So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
So I guess I did have something I wanted to add with the Elvis songs. I had never heard Elvis before I saw this movie.
Wow.
And it was kind of like, oh, that's what that is. Okay. And it's sort of relevant because there was this girl I knew in, I think it was 6th grade, who her and her mom were really into Elvis. And I found out it was about 8 or so years ago that she died of some random disease in her 20s. And it was
cool.
So I think I actually did play a little Elvis. I don't remember what, but something. So I just kind of had that trip off in my brain when we mentioned the Elvis songs, because it was like, oh yeah, there was a lot of Elvis music in here. Oh, that's why I don't remember Elvis. I'm sad now.
Right. Huh. The I think the movie I always associated with Elvis was not one that's highly regarded by a lot of people. The old Nicolas Cage movie, Honeymoon in Vegas. And I feel like that one probably had almost as many Elvis songs as this one does. But I remember that one had Dwight Yoakam covering "Suspicious Minds." It wasn't as good as the original, but
good soundtrack, but terrible movie. I hated that.
No, I remember. Oh God, I had a coworker who hates both Nicholas. I used to have a coworker who hated both Nicolas Cage and Sarah Jessica Parker, and one of our coworkers said that movie was like watching them kiss. And that movie was like watching two horses fight over a carrot.
Oh, God.
All right. Okay.
I did used to hate Nicolas Cage because of what he did in The Wicker Man, and then when I saw him in Mandy, it was like, oh, okay, he's cool. Never mind. So, totally turned me around on it.
Oh, shit. Willy's Wonderland alone.
Cage has had a checkered career. He has had moments of true brilliance and moments of what the hell were you thinking?
and then me wondering what could have been had he played Superman.
There's actually a really good story I heard on one of the DVD commentaries for The Simpsons about Nicolas Cage. one of the producers was talking about how he likes to collect fossils, like trilobites specifically, when he can. And so he was like, one time I was at a trilobite auction, and in the front row I noticed Nicolas Cage is there, and I'm like, whoa, it's Nicolas Cage. Wonder what he's here for. And he doesn't bid on anything. The trilobites I wanted were at the end, and he doesn't bid on anything the whole time. And I start to get worried, like, uh-oh, is he here for? No, don't worry about it. And the first trilobite goes up, and he raises his hand, and then he proceeds to buy every single trilobite that I was trying to get. And some of the other producers were kind of razzing him. It's like, did you try to compete with him? Did you outbid him a few times? He's like, I threw one or two bids in there just to say I tried, but I wasn't. Apparently $1,000 here and there is of no consequence for someone like Nicolas Cage, and I didn't want to just try to beat him and then actually pull it off and have to explain to my wife why we now have this $30,000 rock in the house.
Yeah, he has a T-Rex skull, if I recall correctly, or had at one point.
And actually, stories like that, if anyone has not yet gotten to see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, one of the plot threads
last year.
One of the plot threads in that has to do with his crushing debt because of completely random shit. He probably doesn't do it as badly as the movie makes out, but that's
I actually love Nicolas Cage movies, and I really wanted to see him as Superman, even though it feels strange. But that documentary is awesome. Superman is Dead Lives is what it's called.
So we got a little off track there, but so I'll make a pitch here. When they do the live action Lilo and Stitch, they need to get Nicolas Cage to be the ice cream guy.
Get him in the Gantu suit.
No, Nicolas Cage needs to play Lilo.
Okay, let's not get
I just feel like it would be the best cameo ever to have him be his ice cream guy, just because he can do so much without saying a word.
Oh yeah, Willy's Wonderland showed that he can make the whole movie fun without even speaking.
Right. Well, anywho, as far as I don't think I've done my favorites.
He didn't make a bad cowboy though. Did you see that movie yet? The Old Way, I think it's called.
I don't remember.
He's a cowboy.
Which one? Yeah.
Isn't it called The Old Way?
I don't know that one.
Yes, it's called The Old Way. It's his newest film.
Yeah.
I don't know that one. I haven't seen it yet. But I would say for me, well, I guess I'll agree with everyone. Stitch is probably best character. I'd probably put Jumba as a close second, though. And I will say Cobra Bubbles has the best name. As far as the movie, best moments and what have you, I do love that trial sequence where Jumba is just digging his own hole deeper and deeper. I just love that. And there were a couple other moments scattered throughout. But yes, the surfing sequence with the Hawaiian roller coaster ride is my favorite overall sequence. I've got to go with that one. So I guess we didn't have too many people swinging for the fences for favorites with this one, but you know.
Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna add another favorite. When Stitch recreates the San Francisco skyline.
I had a feeling you'd say that.
That was actually my second favorite. Yeah, I was gonna say that was my favorite, and then I thought about it, but yeah, I 100% agree. That was great.
It was kind of a good way to get out of the system, I guess you could say. Oh, and I will agree with Brandon that this film does have one of the better promotional. It did have one of the better promotional runs, promotional programs of any film I've seen. I still think Deadpool's the clear winner by a mile.
Oh,
But
no.
this one
I
was.
swear Deadpool was almost inspired by this.
It
when
might have
came to
been.
the advertising.
I almost guarantee you Ryan Reynolds knows this movie and probably loves it. At any rate, though, did we have any other final thoughts? Or
Not that I know of.
All right.
Okay. Well, I guess we will go ahead into outros then. And who wants to start? All right. We'll start with you, Kroll.
Well, I'm Kroll, aka Ron. I'm disabled, so I don't work, but I enjoy watching TVs and movies and playing video games and reading books, and then coming on the podcast here and talking about the movies. This podcast and the one on Sunday, and anime discussion once a month, and a game that maybe someday we'll get back to, an RPG game we play. But yeah, I don't have my own YouTube channel, but I'm around here and there on other people's. That's it.
Sounds good. How about you, Dustin?
Right when I can't click on it. Well, I'm the Crypto Horrors. I collect horror movie stuff here in Milwaukee. I have a channel for showing off my horror movie stuff, as well as starting to branch out into some reviews and special collections of specific things. And that's all my YouTube at the Crypt of Horrors, which I added my Twitter handle, Cryptaxis, to the channel name so that it's actually easier to find, because people always just get Crypt TV when they try to type my name in. So now you can just look for Cryptaxis. See, it's a lot easier to remember, it's shorter, and it's more or less unique. There's some idiot in Ireland who last used the handle in 2018, but hopefully they get banned soon, and I can just switch to Cryptaxis instead of Cryptaxis. Anyway, ramble aside, so I'm working on bringing my channel kind of back to life since I took a pretty long involuntary break from it. I originally was going to try to have like a new video every few days, and I have enough things shot I could do that, but only for like a week and a half. So we're working on trying to find some new solutions to that. I did just shoot a Wicker Man collection thing a couple days ago. I don't know when that'll go live, but eventually. It'll be similar to my Halloween Ends collection video where I show like the novel, the 4K Steelbook, and the mask from Trick or Treat Studios, for example, was in the Halloween Ends video. This Wicker Man video is, I have several different editions of it, mostly imports, that were attempts to get a hold of all the extras in one place. And then we end with the imprint set that came out last year from Australia that's finally region 3 and has all that stuff plus new stuff. So, because before you needed something like 4 or 5 different releases to actually get all the bonus material. And now it's finally in one box, albeit a box is going to cost you like $130. So that's some of the stuff to look forward to on my channel. I also post on Instagram at the Crypt of Horrors, which I also need to update the name of somewhat. And you can find me just hanging out on Twitter at Cryptaxis. So yeah, we're working on getting stuff together and making things work. So I even got invited to do some new horror writing on Reptiles and Monster movies. So cool. Yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff. Perhaps too much stuff. So I was done.
All right. I honestly don't remember offhand who is up next week. So I guess if Dave and Brandon can help kind of with that. But
yeah, I've got that.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hand off to Forrest for the moment.
All right. My name is Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer, actor based in Long Island, New York. I've got a couple movies coming out soon, including Camp Blood 666 Part 2, Troma's Bring on the Damned, and Silent Night, Bloody Night 3. You can also find me on Instagram under My Name Is Not Gump, where I do comic book pickups. And I'm also on a local public access film and TV review show here in New York called Unger the Radar, where we review and discuss newer movies and television shows. And they have their own YouTube channel. And I've always got something going on in the pipeline.
Okay, what about you, Jamie?
Well, I'm David's fiance. I go on this and another channel, talk about movies, and I collect some myself, and it's always an interesting time. And right now, I'm just looking forward to the nice weather so that I can go hang out with my car club and my car.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, well, I am Kotobuki Jake. I am the co-host of the YouTube channel Septum Sim vs. World, where we talk about physical media and all of its forms, and do pickup videos and occasional discussions on various other things. Last month we did an anime discussion on Rumble and Half, and this month we'll be tackling Voltron. So that's still got a little bit of viewing ahead of me for that. That's been an interesting trek so far. And meanwhile, I keep very busy between a full-time job with local library, and also the as one of the founders of the Native Plant Nursery, RVA Homegrown Natives, where we sell natives of all kinds and also do a lot of education outreach. I do try to find a fair bit of viewing time in the meantime, and I do definitely try to at least get enough to keep with a come out every week with these fine folks and talk about the movie of the week. And we have had a very interesting assortment of movies this month, and it's been kind of fun to get into some at times rather random choices, and that is, well, that's part of the fun. You come out here and you never know what we're gonna look at. And like I said, I'm glad I finally got to see this one in its entirety.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Septum Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. We love our physical media on the channel, and we do try our best to uphold that in most of what we do. Mostly it's pickup videos. Occasionally our My First Impressions review show, which is very brief first impressions, short reviews of films that I've seen for the first time on physical media, ever, I should say, not just on physical media. And also I do occasional long form reviews. They just take more time than I have had recently to do. Though there is a current video on this channel about that we did recently called the Evan Jacobs Anhedenia Films Buying Guide. So anybody who's interested in trying to get a complete collection by the maker of films like Death Toilet or the more recent Cojones Virus, you can actually find that on the channel. I also am on the Schlockaholics channel, and we talk about various movies, and they do a whole lot of stuff out there without me, but I am on pretty much for most of the movie discussions that they do every other week, with this week us covering the Chris Seaver film Evil Night, which will be fun. And I do also work with Inside Movies Galore to help get the schedule straight. So next week, I guess Tammy is going to be leading us in our discussion of My Blue Heaven with, what is his name?
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, yes, thank you. Steve Martin and Rick Moranis, which is a which was a great pairing. So definitely one I didn't expect to see here, but I'm glad that it's going to be coming up.
Alrighty, and my name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on our journey so far. If you have, and if you haven't, check out our lineup so far that we've had in for our January Blues month. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also podcast, where I go on with my fiance, Tammy, and Krull here, and a good friend of ours, Borks, and we chit-chat about all kinds of movies over there as well. But I also do some video pickups and video reviews of my own from time to time. So let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion, and we'll be back again next week with the last of the January Blues films. And then we start a brand new month. So like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and everyone say good night.
Good night.
Aloha.
Good night.